I don't even care if it's Dan Marino's sister. I don't care how rich I am. What's up, YouTube? It's the NFL Week 9 Picks Against the Spread video for the 2019 NFL season. Fat Guy, I want to give a huge congratulations to Sir Paco de Pope, a regular on the show, going 12-3 in Week 8. Good for 80% against the spread. Fat Guy, let's take a look at the top 10. Sir Paco de Pope obviously first at a solo 12-3. But then some of the other names here. Big Rye owes me a pizza, Micro Odds, Wicked Clown, Mike J, Weiss Picks, and Sad Padres fan, all 11-4, and maybe my favorite name of the week.
Cuter than Chase Daniels. Now I want to highlight him for a moment. He comes up with the best names every week. He's won before. I won't say his name. I'll let him be a little mysterious. But one of his other names, Tears in the McDonald's Bag, my favorites, because I've been putting the t-shirts in a McDonald's bag as a little joke. And speaking of t-shirts, we have last week's winner, Pinkman, their t-shirt right here. So put your name and whatever on the front, what week you won. And then on the back, I finish on top of the Fat Guy, my favorite part. So you'll be getting a t-shirt, Sir Paco de Pope. Just respond to my email. But very clever names. Zaps in 9th place, followed by Eagle Gang. And also a quick shout out to Mike J. He asked for a shout out the week before. I didn't oblige him. You need to earn these things. And he earned it going 11-4. Well done, Mike J. You made it on the list.
And let's take a look at the overall leaderboard. Setupple stays on top. Good for 71 wins on the year in 121 games played. Pick last in second place at 70 wins. Jake Jacobs, the man, the myth, the legend. Ourselves tied with Mickey Hill. That's a pretty good
company.
Place to be.
Good company.
Mike Raj just behind us. I want to give a shout out to Sir Paco de Pope winning this week, jumping all the way up to 8th place.
He went batting over 500 now. 1 week. It only takes 1 week. Keep it in there.
That's all it takes. All right, Fat Guy. So we're 68, 52-1 for this season. Good
Pretty
for
decent.
56.7%. Excellent pace so far. Remember, you guys can compete this week, Week 9. It's not too late to jump in. People keep asking, is it too late? Not at all. That's how you get this sweet
That's how you get that sweet t-shirt.
Come in, play with us, join the streams, live streaming all the Sunday night, Monday night games. So come join us, ask us all the questions you can. But no further ado, let's get on to the Week 9 picks, Fat Guy. Let's start off on Thursday night, where the San Francisco 49ers travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Cardinals are 10-point underdogs at home. Only 16% of bettors are on the Cardinals. Fat Guy, who you got?
Well, I mean, this is pretty easy here. This is going to be the theme of the show. I feel like there's a lot of division games, a lot of strong games this week, and I'm down with this one, believe it or not. This line opened at 7, and it's been bet up to 10, and you know me, I get a double-digit dog at home going against the public in a divisional matchup. Arizona Cardinals. Need I say more? I don't know if this is pick of the week, but this is strong. This is very strong. This is probably my second best bet, I would say. I'm 0-2 for picks of the week, just to let you guys know. But the Arizona Cardinals, this is a perfect storm. San Francisco blowing out Carolina, destroying Carolina. A lot of Super Bowl chatter with San Francisco, and rightfully so, being undefeated. Arizona getting blown out on the road against one of the tougher teams in the league, the New Orleans Saints. Dylan Toddfield, cue the music, will lead you to believe that the Saints are the best team in the league. So I guess losing to them on the road in blowout fashion is no shame. All of this being said, there is a do-up, do-down situation. Every market factor going in the way of the Cardinals, I feel. This is a Cardinals play. Give me the 10 points.
Yeah, we like this at 7. So for it jumping up to 10.
Well, 7.5. 7.5.
7.5, good point. Yeah. But jumping up to 10 is like a home run.
Yes.
Take the Cardinals. This is an excellent bet on a Thursday night game. All right, Fat Guy. On to the Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. This game is in London. Houston and the Jags traveling to London for a neutral field game. The Jags are 2.5-point underdogs as a pseudo home team. 45% of early bettors are on the Jags. Fat Guy, who you got?
I'm going to take the Jags. Now, I'm going to pose it to the audience. Do we think there's maybe a home field advantage for the Jags in London? Have they developed it? Is it really a neutral field? Those are all interesting questions that I don't actually have the answers for at this moment in time. So this is a good thing to banter about in the comment section. 2.5-point underdogs on the road, at home, neutral, whatever you want to call it, the Jacksonville Jags in London. We're going to be taking them. The line that was really early was the Texans by 3, but it seems to have shrunk. I'd really like to get that half point. And if I were you, I'd be waiting on this line. It's a tough one to bet for me, but contest-wise, definitely taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I never say that right. You can lambaste me for it in the comment section, but I hope this line goes to 3 points. I think that would... that'd be way more confident of a bet for me rather than 2.5. 2.5 doesn't seem much, but I need those few percentage points. 3 with good juice, and I'd be taking the Jags. Otherwise, this is just a contest pick. Jacksonville Jags and the points.
You answer my question there. Is this a pick or is this a bet? Because at 2.5, it's probably a pick. At 3, maybe.
3 with good juice.
There you go. Next up, Sunday, early games. Washington Redskins travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills 9.5-point favorites, 58% on the Bills. Fat guy, who you got?
This will be an interesting one. I preach this all the time. 9.5 is good enough for me. Buffalo Bills. I'm doing it. I'm laying 9.5. I hate doing that kind of stuff. And the public is taking the Bills. Now, why am I doing this? What does it all mean, fat guy? Well, this is what it means. I think that all indications are pointing that Dwayne Haskins is going to be starting this game. And I think the drop-off is significant. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is really ready. I think there is a significant gap between Dwayne Haskins and Case Keenum, believe it or not, as well as Colt McCoy even. I actually prefer Colt McCoy out of the 3. All of that being said, I think this is a very turnover-prone game. Like, his chances of covering are maybe the same. Maybe the same as Case Keenum, but their chances of getting blown out, I think, is significantly higher because I believe the turnover rate is a lot more risky with Dwayne Haskins at quarterback. I'm not saying you can't have a good trip here out to Buffalo. I just think it's going to be difficult. Redskins on a nice little cover streak, I believe, having a nice cover against San Francisco in a gross game. As 10-point underdogs, covering by just 1 point, losing 9-0, and then covering narrowly against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football as 16-point underdogs, losing by 10. And the Buffalo Bills, they're getting blown out at home by the Philadelphia Eagles. Another do-up, do-down situation. I actually like the Bills this week, guys. I do, and laying the points, not my style, but I'm going to be doing it. Buffalo Bills minus 9.5, book it. One quick side note, even though I just made him jump back and forth here, there's a little offshore conflict here. So the offshore books seem to have 9.5 down, and the Vegas has 10. I really think the median is probably 10, and there's a little bit of meat on the 9.5. All that being said, I just think it's interesting to point out the line movement. This is a solid one, but take the Buffalo Bills. Now roll it.
As well, the over-under for this game is only 36.5, which is pretty low in NFL standards, so an interesting thing to keep your eye on. Next up, fat guy, the Tennessee Titans travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Panthers 3.5-point favorites at home. 65% of early bettors are on the Panthers. Fat guy, who you got?
I'm going to be taking the Tennessee Titans. I mean, public's not on Tennessee. I can understand why, but I think this is a good spot for him, really. The Panthers gave up, 5 rushing touchdowns? I could be mistaken. Maybe is it 6?
I'm not
it's
sure.
a lot.
I think Tevin Coleman had 4.
Tevin Coleman had 4. It might be 6 rushing touchdowns. All of that being said, I'm using handicapping stuff. Not something I put too much stock in, but it's not going to get much easier against Tennessee, at least from a game script standpoint. Tennessee can definitely pound the rock. Not with as many exotic looks, despite their exotic smash mouth playbook that was once touted by Mike Mularkey and company. The public doesn't like Tennessee. 3.5 points is a key number for the fat guy. I like getting 3.5. I like Tennessee. I don't need to go along with this game because I think it's just cut and dry. Tennessee Titans and 3.5 points.
Next up, the Chicago Bears travel to Philly to take on the Eagles. Eagles 5.5-point favorites at home. 78% of early bettors are on the Eagles. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, I think we're either going to clean up this week or go down in flames. I don't think there's 1-2 ways about it. Too many of these games just feel really juicy to me. And another one here, Chicago Bears, 5.5 points on the road in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, cloud is high. They blew out the Bills on the road. Now they're at home. A little bit, I like how a field goal is going to change the perception of the Chicago Bears, them missing that field goal with Eddie Pinheiro. I didn't say Eddie Pizarro, although he is a favorite contributor of the show, if I can get that out correctly. The Bears getting 5.5 here. I feel this is a little bit meat on the bone here. I think this is a 3.5 point game. I really do. 5.5 gives me a few percentage points on the Bears, I believe, and that's just all the merrier because I would take them anyways, fading the public with only a 22% backing. I think the Chicago Bears are the play this week. I would much prefer cuter than Chase Daniels to play at quarterback, but we can't always get what we want, and they did say that Mitchell Trubisky is the starter. I think that cover-wise, I think that Chase Daniels does give you. I just did nice little Egghorn. I copied Big Rye from last week and said Chase Daniels, plural. Chase Daniel, I think, gives you a better chance of covering than Mitchell Trubisky. But it's not what I like, it's what's being played. I still think 5.5 is a good number. Let's hope that maybe they get a change of heart, much like the reality show, and then the coaching staff plays Chase Daniel over Mitchell Trubisky. All that being said, Bears in the points is definitely where I'm going with this one. Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to wait.
Hey, fat guy. Stop stealing my moves. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings travel to Kansas City, Arrowhead, to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs 2.5 point underdogs at home. Right now, an exorbitant 97% are on the Chiefs. I don't care if I said that right. Fat guy, who you got?
He was waiting for me to correct him. This game isn't available in most markets at this point in time. That's why there's such a disparity between the public, or between the betting volume at 97% for the Chiefs, 3% for the Vikings. So a lot of books aren't taking any action because they don't know. They don't know if Matt Moore or if MVP Patrick Mahomes.
The other guy, Patrick Mahomes.
The other guy is going to be playing. I like the Chiefs regardless, and I think you should jump on this right away if your book offers it. Just the prospect of Mahomes playing boosts this as a Chiefs favorite, as a Chiefs 3.5 point favorite probably. Although his health, you don't know what version of Patrick Mahomes, of course, you're getting. I thought Matt Moore did great. I stand by my Chiefs pick. I think they got jagged a little bit, and that McCoy fumble never helped. They did switch over to Damian Williams, who is now increased in value, I think, fantasy-wise, considering the fumbling woes of the handling like a loaf of bread, football-carrying LaShawn McCoy going forward. All that being said, the Vikings are riding high. They are doing quite well. The Chiefs, injuries and uncertainty to a team that is pretty strong. I thought the defense did well considering all those injuries. So they should be getting some players back on defense. The magic of Andy Reid's play calling, I think, is still going to be there. We saw some exotic screens in that Green Bay game. I hope they show up against this tough Minnesota defense that is, I would say, even more formidable than the Green Bay defense. Really strong team, Minnesota. But that's not going to stop me from taking the Chiefs. People always accused us of hating the Chiefs last week, and now I feel like we're on them all the time. And this is going to be another situation. These betting volumes, like I said, aren't actually accurate because a lot of books aren't carrying this. But if your book does or your bookie does, take the Chiefs now because I don't think this line is going to be favorable going down the line. Of course, it could move if Matt Moore is confirmed as the starter, but just the prospect at Mahomes playing definitely makes this an early play for the fat guy. Take the Chiefs, take the points, take the home field advantage.
Next up, the New York Jets travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Dolphins are 4.5 point underdogs at home. Only 31% of bettors are on the Dolphins. Fat guy, who you got?
The Dolphins that were up 14-0 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it those Dolphins?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Just as Big Rye would say. I'm going to be taking the Miami Dolphins and the points. I'll be honest, this one I don't love. I'm just giving you a heads up here, guys. There was an early line for the Jets close to a week ago, not quite, where the Jets were 6.5 point favorites, and it got bet down to 4.5. A little interesting thing that I've noticed here. A lot of these really early lines, most books don't offer them, but the underdogs getting bet down. In my opinion, that's kind of a pro move to look ahead that far. And what a good thing is when you have an underdog and you bet it in advance, if there's an injury, like say you're betting a week in advance, if there's an injury, that usually benefits the underdog because the underdog, depth at quarterback, for instance, doesn't really matter who plays because they're bad. So injuries and futures usually affect teams negatively. So it's an interesting thing to take into account. Maybe start doing if your book or bookie offer it. So that being said, I'm going to be taking the Dolphins, but I do think that since there was a 6.5 point opening and it's at 4.5, that this could be equilibrium and the meat could have been plucked from the bone by the professionals, those scavengers. But I still think Dolphins is the play here, most certainly for the contest, but I'm not sure for a bet. Give me the Dolphins and give me the 4.5 points.
I'm going to jump on this one. All the market factors are pointing towards taking the Miami Dolphins, so jump on this at 4.5 before it goes any lower.
Big rise seal of approval right there.
Next up, the Indianapolis Colts travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Steelers are 1-point underdogs at home. Only 28% of bettors are on the Steelers. Fat guy, who you got?
I'm going to be taking the Steelers, but I'm going to be waiting. 1 point doesn't do much for me, so it would most likely be a money line bet. Depending on prices, you always got to be price shopping, everybody. It's one of the most important things in sports betting. And if the price ain't right, you can't buy. So I want to buy the Steelers, but I want to get a few more. After this Dolphins debacle, I mean, they still won. They almost covered. But there's some shaky points in that game, very shaky points. And let's hope that the public gleans an emotional reaction from those shaky points and maybe move this game a little bit. Colts were able to win a thriller against the Broncos. We're going to call it that?
Yep.
We'll call it that. And they were able to beat the Houston Texans, who are, I guess, one of the premier teams in the National Football League, especially in the eyes of the public. I'm not as high on them, but I still think they're quality. But regardless, Colts on a 2-game winning streak, 1-1 in covers in the last 2 weeks. All of that being said, I think that the Colts, being 2-0 in the last 2 weeks, have a bit more recent memory bias, let's say. And the Steelers, despite winning against Miami, it wasn't done in the fashion that the public would care about. And I feel like there's some emotional mistakes that could happen. So wait on the Steelers line. Contest-wise, I'm going to be taking them anyways. And I like the Steelers to win this game outright, despite my affinity for the Colts this year. So I'm going to take the Steelers, and I'm going to take the 1 point. But like I said, wait for a preferable number. I don't know how much better you're going to get. But if you're taking the money line, I think it's a good time to wait.
Next up, the Detroit Lions travel to Oakland to take on the Raiders. The Raiders are 2-point favorites at home. Only 34% of bettors are on the Raiders. Fat guy, who you got?
I couldn't find my Raiders hat. If anyone's seen it, make sure you shoot us an email because I cannot find my Raiders hat. So I have to wear this orange one from a really, really strong team that got blown out again. Anyways, I'll be taking the Oakland Raiders. Raiders cover. I've been liking it. I thought they could have won that game against Houston. And what's good about how that game finished is the Houston Texans won, Raiders covered, cashed for us, but it also it gives them a little bit less clout going into the week with the Lions not covering yet beating the New York Giants. The Lions are I think a little bit riding higher in the public's eye. The book did open the line at a pick'em, and I guess the Raiders have been bet up to 2, but that's a marginal move. I like this Raiders team. I like betting on them in this situation. I don't see why they can't beat the Detroit Lions. I think it's a totally winnable game. I like how they've been coached. I think Gruden's done a good job, at least getting his procedure right last year and kind of ironing it out this year. I think the Raiders are a team on the rise, let's say. Team on the rise. I know they've been saying it forever, but I really do. And now I'm adding a little bit of handicapping jargon, which is less what I base things on, but the market factors are strong on the Oakland Raiders. This is a clear Raiders play. I like them all the way up to 3. Of course, losing the percentage points between 2 and 3 isn't my favorite. 3.5 is probably equilibrium for me. But I think the Raiders -2 offers some value. Let's take the Raiders and lay the 2 points. Just from an aesthetic standpoint, I think the Raiders at home offer a little bit of a coaching boost. And I'm starting to put more stock into coaching the more I watch football. And the less I key in on big plays. I think coaching is just such a important factor. And for those reasons, I do like the Raiders, and I think this is a good play this week. Give me the Raiders, and I'll lay the 2 points.
Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks 7-point favorites at home. 56% of early bettors are on the Seahawks. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, here's a little tale of line shopping. Most books do have it at 6.5, but with the power of the internet and we get to run our contest, we get to set the line at what the best one available is, and the best one available is 7 points. And that's a few percentage points better than 6.5. You get a push with a touchdown. And what does that mean? It means money. Percentage points is percentage of the dollars you bet. It's really important to line shop, and we're going to keep harping on that as much as possible. Now, why do I get to line shop with the best ones? Because I have to take them so early, and sometimes you take a bad one, much like Atlanta last week.
I was just going to say.
Atlanta was really interesting. We took them at 3.5 in the contest, point underdogs. That didn't cash because Matt Ryan didn't play. Point in case, the closing line was Atlanta 7.5 or higher, and that 7.5 cashed. So the closing line covered. We don't get the opportunity to do that. So allow us this little grace, and we're going to be taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and 7. 7 is a good number for the Bucs here. They got jagged hard against Tennessee. I got to be honest. That whistled down, blocked fake fourth down, fake punt against Tennessee Titans. That was just disappointing and really, really annoying. I actually felt the Bucs were the better team in that game. Not surprising. The Tennessee Titans have been uneven performers for quite some time. Now, I keep talking about every other team but the Bucs and the Seahawks. I get it. I know how good Russell Wilson is. I understand how good the Seahawks are. They're unbelievable. They could have lost that game against Atlanta. They really could have. There's a Devonta Freeman really unfortunate fumble near the goal line that kind of hurt them a little bit, mired it. And I got to give credit to Matt Schaub here. Again, we're talking about another team, the Atlanta Falcons, but they did play the Seahawks. Schaub kind of cut up the Seahawks defense a little bit in that second half. I think it was a strong third quarter performance in particular. I think the Seahawks, I think they're much better than the Bucs, but 7 points, I like that number. I'll be taking the Bucs. This is mostly a contest play for me. I can't imagine laying money unless I got 7.5 with good juice. I got to be honest. That's me. That's where my price is. 7 seems a little bit positive for the Bucs. 6.5 feels just right. So contest-wise, it's definitely going to be a Bucs play. Money plays, I'm not so sure.
Next up, the Cleveland Browns travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos 2.5-point underdogs at home. Only 12% of bettors are on the Broncos, and they're going to be starting B. Allen at quarterback.
Brandon Allen, a former 6th-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's bounced around the league. I believe he played for the Rams as well. I think he was drafted in 2016. Don't quote me on that because I'm going from memory as usual. This is a stream of consciousness show, guys. If it's your first time, I think everyone knows. As soon as you pick out a few mistakes I'll make, everyone, this very well could be one of them. All of that being said, the line did shift because the Broncos were small favorites, and now they're small underdogs. And I think this is a good time to wait. I'm definitely going to be taking the Broncos contest-wise. I know I'm wearing a Browns hat. How can you bet against your team? Because we don't bet with emotion here at the Big Ryan and the Fat Guy Studios. We bet the number, not the team. And the number favors the Denver Broncos, and I think that number could increase. The Broncos +3 would be nice. Broncos plus 3.5. I'm dreaming. I don't really think it's going to trend that far in that direction, but 3 seems to be a really good number. 2.5, you probably want to take the money line. You'll have to see. You'll have to compare prices, obviously. But I think Broncos money line play is definitely in line here, and it's not unreasonable for the Broncos to beat the listless Browns from one of the worst coaching performances off a bye, might I add, against the New England Patriots. Illegal shifts, false starts galore. Just guys not really getting their head into it. I mean, I guess Baker Mayfield has to do more commercials. Is that the formula? Not to mention you got the Pillow Biter brothers in Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. See, this is me venting as a Browns fan. You see what I mean? I would still bet on the Browns. I don't have, it's not going to affect my betting, but I'm allowed to vent here, guys. It's a cathartic experience. So, I mean, and Odell Beckham's giving out goat cleats to Tom Brady. Like, all of this is just fluff. Why bother? You're here to play football. You're not performing on the field. That should be your first and only priority, realistically. You have a small window to play this game. Try and make as much money as possible. I think you'd want to be successful rather than, assuage the Instagrams of fans. That's not really important to the best of them. I don't like the coaching of the Cleveland Browns. Vic Fangio is lauded as a player's coach, and he's quite liked. I don't think he's quite lived up to the hype necessarily so far, but it's okay. I mean, he's an older coach. I guess things take time. I feel like their defense is coming around a little bit. They lost a thriller. I mean, I understated it when I was mentioning the Colts game, but they really did, and they really did put their best foot forward in winning that game against the Indianapolis Colts on the road. Why can't they beat the Cleveland Browns at home? And market factors are going in their direction. I like it. Yeah, it's Brandon Allen. I get it. Is he really that big a drop-off from Joe Flacco? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, really? They have a pretty vanilla offense that's uninspiring, to be honest. But, I mean, it's still filtered through Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. It's not like you're...
I just want to add, I think Royce Freeman might be out for this game.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But regardless, I mean, you know me, running backs are almost interchangeable.
Yep.
And Phillip Lindsay, that works for me. I don't need a lot from the Broncos. Can the Broncos defense, and I kind of harp on this. This is, like I said, it's handicapping jargon, but it's a way to, like I said, it's an anchoring point. It's a way for me to justify it, even though I'm going by market factors. The Broncos defense is the best unit between these two teams. I like the Broncos at home. Broncos home field is significant to me even still. Mile high. I'm going to take the Broncos. I'm going to take the points, but wait for this line to shoot up.
Next up, the Green Bay Packers travel to LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers 3.5-point underdogs at home. Only 10% of bettors are on the Chargers. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, I'm going to be taking the Los Angeles Chargers at 3.5 points. There is some really interesting stuff with this line, guys. So very early lines, even before this week, or before week 8 rather, the line was 4 points. Green Bay on the road. Now you can get this line at Green Bay -3 with huge juice on offshores, prominent offshore books, or you could take it +3.5 at even money on some Vegas books. So there's a little bit of discrepancy between Vegas and the offshore. I'm gonna bet that the offshore is a little bit more sharp. That's just my intuitive nature, and especially that we've been in the game a little bit. They seem to be on the cutting edge, and I'm gonna go with the cutting edge, and I'm gonna be taking the underdog Los Angeles Chargers, who are able to get a let's call it unsatisfying to the public road win. People aren't going to give them credit for that win against the Bears. It's a variance play more or less. I mean, they had a reasonable percentage to win that game. They were able to close it out on a Eddie Pinheiro missed field goal to finish it out. The public doesn't like the Chargers. I quite like the Chargers. So give me the Chargers and give me the 3.5 points.
Sunday Night Football, the New England Patriots travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens are 3.5-point underdogs at home. Only 32% of bettors, fat guy, are on the Ravens. Who you got?
Super easy. I'm going to be taking the Ravens. I know, guys. I know about the Patriots covering. I get it. Really interesting. Before Week 8, this line came out as 6.5. Pats on the road. So savvy bettors are all over that, and they took Ravens +6.5. Bet it all the way down to 3.5. I still think there's meat on the bone at 3.5. I think this line should be Pats -2.5. I really do. I like the Baltimore Ravens this week. I like them to win even. I think the Ravens are well in their rights to win. From a handicapping perspective, the Pats seem very worried and susceptible about the run game, and not that confident in their offense either. So I think despite blowing out Cleveland, which was very much in the ether of what was to happen, Nick Chubb had a great performance despite 2 costly fumbles, and he was able to carve them up. I want to see. This is just fun as a football fan. How is Belichick going to react to a dynamic rushing team like the Ravens, who are able to churn yards with not just Mark Ingram, but Lamar Jackson, who might be even out rushing his fellow running back? There is strong offense when it comes to the run game, and they do have the ability to pass downfield. Lamar Jackson, I think, is even in MVP conversation. He's had a very good season so far, and the Ravens are coming off a bye. I just, in the markets going against the Ravens, this is all Ravens for me. I'm going the real Browns. I did wear the hat for a reason. Of course, Cleveland moving there. I'm going to be taking the Ravens, and I'm going to be taking the points. And I'm not saying that the Ravens are better than the Patriots. I'm saying it's a week-to-week league. And in this situation, this is a good spot for the Ravens. Give me the Ravens and the 3.5-point cushion.
And on to Monday Night Football, where the Dallas Cowboys travel to New York to take on the Giants. The Giants 7.5-point underdogs at home. 22% of early bettors are on the Giants. Fat guy, who you got on Monday night?
It's my bet of the week. It's the New York Giants. 7.5-point underdogs at home. Divisional game, prime time. Give me the Giants. Now, I'm going to preface this. My bet of the weeks are currently 0-2. We only started them 2 weeks ago. I have a 0% win rate on these. So if you faded my bet of the weeks, you would be at a 100% win rate, which is pretty good. So use that information, use that sample to your benefit or detriment, whatever way you choose. That being said, my money is going to be placed firmly on the New York Giants. I like 7.5 points. I like the market factors. I think this is a closer game. Also, the Giants added Leonard Williams. I don't know how much that's going to impact this game, if at all. but that's becoming a strong defensive line. Not necessarily from a pass rushing standpoint, but from a, I guess, bulky pass rusher, if you're going to call it that. I mean, B.J. Hill, the Dancing Bear from Clemson, Dexter Lawrence. They also have Dalvin Tomlinson. These are all high-round picks. Leonard Williams is a former 3rd overall pick. I'm very interested to see how that D-line handles the Cowboys' offensive line, which is one of the better ones in the league. This is maybe a good matchup when you have a foursome like that. I don't know how you're going to get them to play all at once, but at least I think 3 at a time is perfectly reasonable. I like the New York Giants here. I'm not saying that they're going to win this game, but keeping it within the number of 7.5 is extremely likely to me. Most of the numbers are most of the books have the number at 7. I don't quite like it nearly as much. 7.5 really speaks to me. So make sure you try and get that line with positive juice. Do your line shopping. It's another theme of the show. Line shopping is just critically important. I can't understate that or overstate it any more than I am. There was this line was at 9, like I said, and bet down, but 7.5 I still feel is well within the range. And moving from 9 to 7.5 isn't nearly as significant, considering it's not glossing over any key numbers except perhaps 9, which is one of the weaker of the key numbers. Give me the New York Giants in the 7.5 points. And yeah, I got a little bit of a boner for Danny Dimes, and I'm going to extend that to this weekend. And I'm going to be taking, well, I guess it's Monday night, not quite the weekend. Extended weekend, extending Danny Dimes. Give me the Giants and give me the 7.5 points.
All right, Fat Guy, time for the lightning round. San Fran at Arizona.
Arizona Cardinals.
Houston at Jacksonville in London.
Jacksonville in London.
Washington at Buffalo.
Laying the points with the Bills.
Tennessee at Carolina.
Tennessee Titans with the points.
Chicago at Philly.
Bears in the points.
Minnesota at Kansas City.
Kansas City in the points.
New York Jets at Miami.
Miami in the points.
Colts at Steelers.
Pittsburgh in the point.
Detroit at Oakland.
Laying 2 with Oakland.
Tampa Bay at Seattle.
Bucks with 7.
Cleveland at Denver.
Denver at home with the points. Let's go Brandon Allen.
Green Bay at LAC.
Chargers and the points.
Sunday Night Football with a barn burner. New England at Baltimore.
Ravens and the points.
And on Monday night, your best bet of the week, Dallas at the New York Giants.
I like points. I like the Giants. Give me the Giants and the points.
Well, that's it for us, guys. Thanks for joining us for the NFL Week 9 Picks Against the Spread video. Fat Guy, you got any last words?
This week's a little nervous for me. It honestly feels like a too good to be true dog week. So I'm picking a high variance week. I'll be disappointed if I split. I want to go down in flames, or I want to rise like Olympus above the Serengeti.
You know what's nice for the fans at home is when you throw on the Bears game, Chase Daniels, just a little bit of eye candy for the people at home.